Hey guys, tonight we're heading somewhere humid enough to make your deodorant file for divorce. Vietnam, circa the late 1960s. You've just left the comfort of air-conditioned reality and stepped into the kind of jungle where everything, the leaves, the trees, the frogs, is trying to outsweat you. Before we get too emotionally soggy, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy this kind of existentially confusing travel content. No pressure. Really. Comment where you're watching from and what temperature your AC is set to, because soon we want to have that luxury. Now, dim those lights. Turn on a fan for that gentle forest breeze but without malaria feeling. Get comfortable. Maybe grab a snack. Preferably something that did not once crawl out of damp foliage. Pause for a moment. Ask yourself the big questions. Were jungle uniforms just portable saunas with pockets? How many bugs can crawl into your boots before you lose the will to negotiate with God? What does trench foot smell like? How do you tell the difference between a harmless vine and a creatively disguised death rope? And if your commander tells you, "Don't worry, it is probably safe," should you laugh, cry, or immediately hide inside a bush? Congratulations, you've just woken up in Vietnam, the late 1960s. You're sweaty, you're confused, and somehow you've already stepped into a puddle that has feelings. Good luck. Your first steps feel like entering a steamy botanical garden curated by Satan. The ground squelches, and your boots immediately fill with water, mud, and something that growls. You blink a few times, trying to process what is happening. You remember getting issued those boots back in training, lovingly told they were jungle ready, which is military code for they will eventually dry out sometime in the next century. Right now, they feel like you've strapped on two lukewarm aquariums whose inhabitants would like you gone. Every slosh is a reminder that your socks have given up on life. You are, in fact, now a swamp creature. Let's talk about your outfit. You're wearing olive drab fatigues, which, surprise, do not repel water, bugs, or existential dread. The cloth just soaks everything up, like an emotional sponge. After approximately 3 seconds in Vietnam, your uniform becomes a wet blanket you didn't ask for, hugging your skin with the clinginess of an insecure ex. The air is thick, hotter than a Florida Walmart parking lot in July. The humidity hits you like opening an oven, except someone added a waterfall and then turned the temperature up to gumbo. Breathing feels like drinking soup through your nose. You start sweating so aggressively that your sweat begins to sweat. If you stand still long enough, you might simply dissolve into a puddle and become part of the local ecosystem. The jungle around you is loud, in a way that suggests half the forest is dating and the other half is reconsidering their choices. Birds scream at you with the confidence of creatures who know you are not the apex predator here. Something chirps, something shrieks, something literally giggles, and you ask yourself if the foliage is mocking you. Yes, it is. Let's talk about the bugs. If insects back home are mild acquaintances, these are toxic ex-roommates who know exactly how to ruin your night. Mosquitoes drift toward you like you are hosting an all-you-can-eat blood buffet. They don't just land, they commit. They file paperwork. These mosquitoes are unionized. You slap one and 3 more arrive for workers' comp. There are ants the size of tic-tacs with anger issues. They crawl across your arms like tiny alarm clocks set to pain. If you drop food, they treat it like a neighborhood barbecue and you are not invited. You start wondering if the military should have trained you to negotiate with insects. Diplomacy seems your best bet. And then there's the mud. Beneath the surface, the earth feels like pudding with emotional baggage. Every step is a surprise. Sometimes your boot sinks ankle deep, sometimes knee deep. Once, you lose a boot entirely and have to fish for it like you're bobbing for apples, except the apples bite. You remind yourself that this is technically a work trip. You're here because important adults somewhere thought it was a good idea. Right now, you'd like to speak to management. Unfortunately, management is 1,000 miles away, and the jungle only accepts complaints written in the tears of mosquitoes. A lizard darts across your path and eyes you like you are lost. You are. The plants all look identical. A green wall of mystery, so navigating feels like trying to find your car in a parking lot where every vehicle is the same and the humidity has erased your memory. You follow the squad and hope no one notices you're 87, sure you've been walking in a circle. Suddenly a branch snaps beneath your foot. Startled, you flail dramatically, crushing a nearby fern that did nothing wrong. In the distance, someone laughs, probably another soldier, possibly a monkey. You honestly can't tell. Your ego bruises easier than your shins. After a while, your senses adjust slightly. You start to understand why veterans claim that the jungle is alive. It breathes, it whispers, it burps. You learn to listen carefully to every crackle and rustle. You don't know whether it's an animal, the wind, or a leaf falling in a dramatic fashion, but you're absolutely certain it could ruin your day. Hours pass. The heat never lets up. Your canteen water tastes like metal and regret. Your feet has become squishy, like day-old ravioli, but you are still moving, still learning, still attempting to make peace with the fact that your life now includes scheduled hydration and unscheduled panic. And then, just when your brain begins to adapt to this green nightmare, something harmless like a butterfly brushes your shoulder and you nearly scream. Congratulations, the jungle has trained you. You keep walking, because what else is there to do? And somewhere, deep in your soggy boots, a tiny bubble of laughter appears. You are slowly but surely becoming one with the mud. Good job. Only 364 days to go. Everything you learned back home feels about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. It's not that the drills, marches, and endless lectures were pointless. They just didn't mention that the jungle comes with a bonus expansion pack full of hazards that were definitely not in the training manual. Back home, you did obstacle courses. Here, the obstacles move. They bite. Some may even file for squatters' rights on your ankles. You remember basic training, crisp lines, loud orders, guys doing push-ups until they learned to love the dirt. You had imagined it would prepare you for war. Instead, it prepared you to jog in straight lines and occasionally clean your rifle in peaceful silence. Vietnam, on the other hand, is like being dropped into a horror movie shot on location inside a salad. Your drill sergeant told you to keep your weapon clean. Good advice, except now your weapon is somehow sticky, slimy, and also has a questionable smell you can't identify. You wipe it down. 2 minutes later, it is sticky again. The jungle is basically one large humidifier with an attitude problem. They told you in training to stay alert. Here, that means you sleep lightly, half expecting a hostile frog to interrogate you about your life choices. Every twig is suspicious. Each breeze sounds like a threat. And honestly, you didn't need this level of drama before breakfast. Let us talk about land navigation. In training, you learned how to use a compass and map, what terrain features look like, and how to calmly orient yourself. Out here, everything is a terrain feature. Bushes, trees, vines, a wall of green that laughs at your map. You look down, no problem. You know exactly where north is. You look up, and suddenly you're lost in a chlorophyll labyrinth. Hoping no one notices you've spun around 3 times like a confused Roomba. Even the weather ignored your training. In class, rain was a mild inconvenience. Here, rain is a lifestyle. It falls sideways. It falls up. It falls in mysterious cycles designed to ruin your schedule. You try to take notes, but your notebook is now a soup. Water discipline was drilled into your sole ration, your canteen. Conserve, hydrate carefully. But it is hard to plan when you're sweating faster than your body can complain. You sip, you sweat, you contemplate just standing with your mouth open to catch rainfall like a malfunctioning houseplant. You remember all the first aid lessons, bandages, pressure, splints. Yes, excellent. Except now your patient has a leech in his sock. The ground is a mud pit and your medical tape is playing hide and seek. You do your best. He says thank you. You both pretend everything is normal. Then there are the insects. No one warned you about them properly. Sure, they said mosquitoes might be a problem. What they meant was, prepare for a buzzing, biting aerial assault. They trained you to identify enemy soldiers, uniforms, equipment, formations. They did not train you for caterpillars capable of psychological warfare. Weapon drills? You practice shooting still targets at known distances, easy peasy. Now your target blends into the jungle like it paid rent there first. You listen, you watch, but mostly you just wonder if the trees are judging your posture. Oh, and do you remember camouflage? In training, you smeared paint on your face and felt heroic. Here, you are camouflage. After a day crawling in the jungle, you're indistinguishable from a moss-covered branch that's late for a meeting. Teamwork was a big part of basic and here. That matters more than anything. Your squad becomes your lifeline. You learn to read each other's faces, even when half hidden under dirt, sweat, and at least 3 bug bites that are concerningly large. Together you replace fear with jokes. Together you pretend this is fine. And in a quiet moment, leaning against a tree that is definitely alive and probably judging, you accept it. Training didn't fail you. It brought you to the starting line. But Vietnam is the real instructor now, one who doesn't care about lesson plans, completion badges, or your sense of personal space. You take a breath. You take another. You keep moving. Because here, adaptation is the only thing that still works. And even then, only on Tuesdays, you meet the guys. They are sweaty, sarcastic, and clinging to humor like it's the last dry sock in Southeast Asia. At first glance, they look like a collection of dirt-stained action figures that someone left out in the rain. Their uniforms are soaked, their hair is plastered to their skulls, and their boots make that familiar swish-squish sound, the soundtrack of your new reality. But behind the grime, there is a spark, a kind of defiant energy that suggests if given half a chance, these men would unionize against humidity. They give you nicknames before they learn your real one. That's how you know you're in. Nobody cares about your last name, yet they care about whether you can carry your weight, laugh under pressure, and not flip out when a lizard casually strolls across your canteen. The first guy you meet is Johnson. Every group has a guy with a last name so statistically common that the military pre-printed his paperwork. He smiles like he's been through enough to find chaos charming. Johnson offers you a cigarette. You don't smoke, but the gesture means more than nicotine ever could. Then there is Morales, a kid from New York who talks like everything is an inconvenience, including gravity. He tells you his biggest fear is running out of powdered drink mix. Not bullets, not enemy contact, no powdered lemonade, is how he convinces himself this is a bizarre summer job, not a war. He jokes that one day he'll open a deli, which sounds weirdly comforting in a place where bread feels like a myth. Next is Doc, the medic. He looks permanently tired, like he's seen every brand of injury and does not recommend. Despite that, he treats everyone with a gentle firmness. Part nurse, part mum friend. Doc has a satchel stuffed with gauze, morphine, and pure optimism. He checks your blistering feet without judgment, though he raises an eyebrow that silently says, "Did you really think those socks were enough?" You consider apologizing to your toes. Further down the line is Big Red, a guy built like a refrigerator with emotional sensitivity withheld pending further notice. Yes, he got freckles, a southern drawl, and the uncanny ability to carry absurd amounts of gear like he is storing items in his personal inventory screen. He calls you kid, regardless of your actual age, then pats your back so hard your spine rethinks alignment. Even the quiet guys have personalities that leak through. Carter speaks rarely, but when he does, it's a masterpiece of dry commentary. He once summed up an entire night mission with, "Well, we didn't die." You decide immediately that Carter will either save your life or narrate it with brutal honesty. Both sound equally comforting. No one here pretends they're invincible. That's refreshing. They joke about the jungle, about the enemy, about the cosmic unfairness of powdered eggs. Humor becomes currency, a way to spend anxiety without letting it pile up. You hear more jokes in 10 minutes than you did in a month of training. It's therapy, but with more mosquitoes. Let us talk about group dynamics. The squad moves like a hive. Coordinated, buzzing, always half awake. You learn fast that everyone has a role. Someone carries the radio. Someone knows how to fix anything with duct tape. Someone, usually Johnson, insists he has seen stranger things back home like that. Time his neighbour tried to grill a turkey using only a blowtorch. You wonder how that compares to jungle warfare. Probably similar level of danger. As you settle in, the squad teaches you the unwritten rules. Always check your boots before putting them on. Never eat alone, you'll attract attention. Never admit you like the rations. And always keep track of your socks. They speak casually about nearby villages, helicopter rides, and the latest rumour about what is happening outside the jungle. News travels like gossip in a small town, usually incorrect, but entertaining. One day someone swears they heard the war will be over in a month. The next day someone says 10 years. Neither answer is comforting. Over time, you realize trust here doesn't come from charm, it comes from simply being present. Show up, share the load. Sit with someone when the rain refuses to stop. Hand over your last pack of crackers without hesitation. These small things build bonds thicker than mud. At night, you huddle together in your makeshift nest of damp gear. The jokes quiet, replaced by murmured stories about home. Some talk about old girlfriends, some about cars they never finish fixing. Someone mentions missing hot showers, and the group groans in collective grief. You imagine steam, clean towels, and no centipedes. You don't know how long you'll stay with these men days, months, the rest of the war. But tonight, you realize something important. You're not alone. And in a place where everything feels ready to swallow you whole, that's the greatest comfort of all. Eventually someone snores, someone farts. Everyone pretends to be asleep. You smile into the darkness. You've found your people. In the worst place imaginable. Lucky you. The air is thick enough to spread on toast. Your skin becomes soup. Almost immediately you realize there are no dry surfaces in Vietnam. Not one. You could snap a towel with the force of 1,000 suns, and within 10 seconds it would be wetter than a Labrador retrieving bath toys. Even your thoughts feel damp. If you wrote a letter home right now, half the ink would just slide off the page in protest. You take a breath. It's like inhaling hot broth, the kind served at a questionable diner, where the chef coughs into the pot and insists it's extra flavour. The air presses into your chest and you try to remember what dry lungs feel like. No dice. Your lungs are now water balloons. Your shirt clings to you like it's trying to merge with your DNA. You peel the fabric away from your torso and hear that familiar schlup sound, the same sound your boots make, your sleeping bag makes, and frankly, your soul makes. You try to convince yourself that maybe it is detoxing your pores, but let us be real. Your pores are drowning and begging for a life jacket. Let us talk numbers. The humidity is usually somewhere between sauna you didn't sign up for and breathing through a steaming washcloth. Someone once claimed it hit 98% humidity. You suspect that was an understatement. You're pretty sure it reached 140% this morning, mathematically impossible, yet undeniably true. The sweat situation is dramatic. It doesn't glide, it cascades. At home, sweat is a cute little moisture layer. Here, it is a lifestyle. Your armpits become waterfalls. Your back becomes a small river system. Each droplet rolls downward like it's late for a meeting. Any part of your body that can sweat does. Parts you didn't know could sweat suddenly file for recognition. Let S shift to smell. The humidity traps every odor in the atmosphere like a curator at a very unpleasant museum. Sweat, mud, old boots, rations shaped like regret. The guy next to you smells like he wrestled a salamander and lost. You accept that your own odor is now part of the ecosystem. Birds probably recognize you by scent alone. Congratulations, you're a landmark. Every now and then, a breeze teases your face. You get excited. Wind. Relief. A gift from the heavens. But then it arrives. Still hot, still wet. Like someone put boiling water in a spray bottle and spritzed your pores for fun. A warm breeze here is not refreshing. It is a reminder that nature thinks you're adorable for expecting comfort. Let us talk about how this affects your gear. Your ammunition sweats. Your backpack sweats. Even your wooden rifle, stock, feels like it's absorbing liquid faster than a paper towel commercial. Letters from home crinkle and curl into little humid origami sculptures. You consider mailing them back to the postal service and demanding a refund. But the post office is not currently taking jungle complaints. It is time to address what humidity does to sleep. Spoiler, it ruins it. At night, you lay in your tent or foxhole waiting for a slight drop in temperature. Nothing happens. You flip your shirt to the dry side. There is no dry side. You try lying perfectly still, hoping your body will just chill. It does not. You wake up damp in places you didn't know existed. Your pillow feels like a loaf of bread that's gone through a gentle rinse cycle. The humidity also invites fungal drama. Hot, wet fabric creates a perfect environment for what the army politely calls jungle rot. Translation: your feet are slowly becoming mystery creatures. Doc lectures you to dry your socks at any opportunity on your pack, in the sun, on your helmet. You do your best, but the humidity laughs. Eventually you adapt. Sort of. You start predicting the day's misery with impressive accuracy. Today feels like a melted coconut cream pie, you say, wiping your forehead. Your squad nods. They agree. Morales suggests bottling the air and selling it as a weight loss regimen. Just sweat yourself into oblivion. Big Red recommends using humidity as hair product. Your curls have never looked so weirdly impressive. Then, a chopper flies overhead, kicking up a moment of real wind. You close your eyes and it feels magnificent. Cool? Not exactly. Dry? No way. But compared to the swamp you live in, it's their fleeting, gentle, a micro-blessing. And in that moment, your skin sighs. Maybe you can survive this slow cooker after all. With enough water, enough stubbornness, and enough jokes, you start to settle in moist, miserable, and somehow weirdly okay. The jungle wins, sure, but you are still here, and sometimes that's enough. You hear whispers about enemy fighters who know the land like your uncle knows the yard sale circuit. They move quietly, not magically, but with the kind of discipline and familiarity that comes from having lived among these trees since childhood. Your commanders warn you that the Viet Cong rarely attack unless they want to, from angles you wouldn't think to watch. You nod, trying to look competent, but your brain is still stuck on the idea that you're being hunted by people who can turn a jungle into an invisibility cloak. This thought lives rent-free in your skull. You stare into the trees, noticing how they seem to bend in odd ways, as if they are deliberately hiding guests. Every rustle is suspect, every bird call a potential signal. You start feeling like the forest itself is plotting. It's not just the enemy, it's the vines, the roots, the humidity, and that one frog that keeps staring at you like it knows you failed geometry. The Viet Cong fighters blend with the environment effortlessly. Meanwhile, you are a walking, talking, Find Waldo puzzle, wearing a sweat-stained uniform and visible confusion. You try to mimic the way your squad mates crouch silently, but a leaf crackles beneath your boot and you instantly feel like the loudest object within a 20-mile radius. Even your breathing sounds like a steam engine. Subtlety is not your strong suit. Your squad whispers stories, some true, some exaggerated, all designed to remind you that the enemy knows this terrain at a level you probably never will. One guy swears he saw a fighter disappear into the jungle like a magician stepping behind a velvet curtain. Another claims they can navigate by smell alone. You assume he is joking, but honestly, after 3 weeks here, you wouldn't rule it out. You learn fast that visibility here is an illusion. 1 second you think you're alone. The next second your sergeant is pointing at an area where allegedly 3 people just moved. You stare. You see nothing but green. Your sergeant shrugs in that "you will learn eventually" way. You nod like you understand. You do not. Let us talk about tunnels, the most anxiety-inducing architecture you've ever heard of. The Viet Cong built intricate underground systems, sometimes stretching for miles. Storage chambers, sleeping areas, meeting rooms, an entire hidden town beneath your feet. You picture softly lit subway stations of determination and wonder. How many times you've stood on one of these subterranean neighborhoods while complaining about your feet. Sometimes you see signs of movement, a footprint, a snapped twig, a patch of dirt that looks just slightly wrong. Your brain starts playing detective. Could be a guerrilla unit, could be a wild pig, could be some guy from your squad who forgot where he was walking. The jungle laughs and refuses to explain. Ambushes can come from anywhere: a tree line, a rice paddy, a place that looks innocent until it suddenly isn't. You learn to take nothing for granted. AI's quiet morning is suspicious. A peaceful trail means someone swept it. Maybe. Or maybe they're watching, waiting, and laughing at how much noise you make. There's not just fear, it has tension. Constant low-grade tension that hums under your skin. You trade jokes with the squad to release the pressure. Maybe they're hiding in your canteen, Morales whispers dramatically. You laugh, mostly to keep from screaming. Big Red listens carefully, then reminds everyone to actually check their canteens, just in case. Your sergeant teaches you new habits. Move slowly, scan often, trust your gut. But your gut mostly wants a sandwich and a nap, so you settle for scanning. You start to see what they mean: subtle shifts in foliage, unnatural mounds of earth, tiny trails barely visible except to those who are desperate or bored enough to look closely. Turns out, you are both. Sometimes you meet villagers living simple lives in tiny hamlets. They farm, cook, and wash clothes beside rivers that look too calm to belong here. You wave, they nod. You wonder if they know things you don't, which is very likely. Not everyone is your enemy, not by a long shot, but it's hard to shake the uncertainty. You treat everyone with cautious respect because the last thing anyone here needs is more chaos. Slowly, you begin to accept a strange reality. These fighters are not ghosts. They are people skilled, resourceful, familiar with this land the way you are familiar with your grocery store. They know where to move, where to hide, where the ground gives clues. They know how to stay invisible. And you're learning. Every day your senses sharpen. You hear more. You see more. You understand the landscape a little better. You still sweat through every pore and occasionally mistake a squirrel for a full-scale attack, but progress is progress. The Viet Cong are everywhere and nowhere. Both truths can live here, just like you. And so, you keep walking, careful, quiet, a little wiser than yesterday, because here, wisdom keeps you breathing. You learn about traps that look like ordinary plants but are actually oops, M-impaled machines. Your introduction to them is not comforting. The briefing officer explains that the Viet Cong have turned the jungle into a 24/7 obstacle course designed by someone who clearly had strong opinions about Shin safety. He points at diagrams that look like IKEA instructions gone rogue. Here is a leafy bush, which is not a bush. Here is some innocent dirt, which is not innocent. Here is a puddle, definitely not just water. You start wondering if anything in nature is real, or if the whole jungle is a prank show hosted by vegetation. Your sergeant begins walking you through types of traps. The punji pitta hole lined with sharpened stakes hides beneath foliage like a coupon waiting to ruin your weekend. The stakes are often angled, because apparently gravity needed help ruining your ankles. You stare at the demonstration pit, suddenly grateful for every flat sidewalk you ever ignored back home. Then there are tripwires, thin, delicate, nearly invisible, which is rude. Why can't they glow neon and politely announce themselves like hazard cones at a grocery store spill? Instead, they blend into branches and roots. You start eyeing every vine like it owes you money. One older soldier explains the traps calmly, like he is given a cooking tutorial. You step here, boom, bad. You step over here, better. He points to twigs and leaves as if they have emotional personalities. Never trust a path that looks clear, he says. If it looks convenient, it's probably a trick. This ain't the YMCA. You nod, unsure what the YMCA has to do with anything, but very sure you'll never trust a clearing again. Let's talk about the emotional toll. A simple walk becomes a puzzle. You pick your steps like you're playing jungle minesweeper. Your squad adopts new hobbies, tapping the ground with sticks, poking bushes suspiciously, and staring at dirt like it is hiding state secrets. Every so often someone mutters, "Nope," backs away from a patch of earth, and finds a new, equally concerning route. The jungle begins to feel alive and mischievous. Leaves shift in ways suggesting they are whispering. Roots curl like they have opinions. You swear a vine moved once, but Morales insists it was just your imagination or heat stroke. You remain unconvinced. On patrol, the squad progresses slowly, eyes scanning the ground more than the horizon. You feel like a parent learning to baby-proof a house, except the house is also trying to baby-proof you. Before long, stepping carelessly becomes unthinkable. Even the guy who once tripped over his own shadow now moves with ballet-level awareness. The jungle demands grace. Sometimes you come across a trap that's already been sprung a hole with stakes exposed, a tripwire dangling impotently. You stare, grateful you didn't meet it at full speed. You let out a shaky laugh, like someone who dodged a parking ticket by pure luck. Then, reality sets in. These traps are not random. They were carefully constructed by people who know exactly where troops are likely to step. They are designed to slow movement, force caution, and turn every square foot into a decision. And they work. The Viet Cong compensate for limited resources with ingenuity. Bamboo becomes a weapon. Vines become trip mechanisms. The jungle itself becomes an assistant. You begin developing new instincts. You step lightly. You move slower. You use your stick, yes, your stick to check the path. It becomes your best friend. You name it, despite promising yourself you wouldn't. Everyone has a stick. Morales calls his Janet. You say nothing. Your medic, Doc, reminds you that the best defense against traps is attention. And luck. Mostly attention, but also luck. Every night you check your boots for insects, then check your brain for anxiety. You conclude both need rest. When you finally do settle into a rhythm, your sergeant gives you a grim compliment. You're walking like someone who wants to keep his legs. Good. You take pride in that. Traps don't disappear, but you learn to read the jungle like a suspicious landlord. Fallen leaves that look too casual, avoid. Smooth-looking dirt, suspicious, random branches tied together, do not touch. In fact, maybe don't touch anything. Ever. You continue forward slowly, carefully, humor-intact feet whispering through the undergrowth. The jungle is a maze. The traps are real, but you are adapting. Congratulations. You're now paranoid enough to survive. Miles drift under your boots like a fever dream. At some point, you stop measuring distance. There is only forward. Forward through mud, forward through fields, forward through vegetation dense enough to file taxes in your name. You march because everyone else is marching, like a confused parade with unclear messaging. No one waves flags. The only confetti is falling leaves. The marching band is exclusively composed of mosquitoes. You adjust to the rhythm, though rhythm might be too elegant a word. It is more like repeatedly tripping without falling. The jungle floor is a chaotic buffet of roots, vines, puddles, holes, and mysterious swampy sections that smell like they hold ancient grudges. You stumble, you catch yourself, you keep going. Your pack is heavy. It contains everything you own in this world. Food, water, dry socks, theoretically, ammunition, medical supplies, and maybe a photograph from home. After an hour, it feels like you're carrying a stubborn raccoon on your back. After 2 hours, it feels like the raccoon has gained muscle mass. After 3 hours, you are convinced the raccoon is lifting weights back there. The weight never gets lighter. Your spine just gives up and files a workplace grievance. Let's talk about the terrain. It doesn't like you. It has no plans to start. You walk through rice paddies where your feet sink deep enough to meet historical layers of ancient muck. You cross creeks where the water is suspiciously warm, like it's been thinking about you too long. You climb slopes that crumble beneath your boots, sending mud slides into your socks. You wonder if your toes will ever be clean again. The answer is no. Then there's the heat, the constant steamy breath of the jungle on your neck. It wraps around you like an unwanted hug from a stranger who smells faintly of compost. At first, you try to maintain dignity. After half an hour, dignity is gone. You're drenched, red-faced, and breathing like a dog left in a parked car. Morales says it is normal. You don't believe him. Conversation during marches is sparse. Breathing takes priority. When anyone does talk, it's either about food memories, burgers, fries, ice cream, all banned thoughts, or the number of hours they think they've been walking. Strangely, everyone's internal clock is wrong. Johnson swears it's been 4 hours. Carter insists it's been 12 minutes. You agree with whichever option feels more depressing. Your feet, oh yes, the feet. These poor, soggy rectangles of bone and tender skin. They scream for mercy. Your socks, though once noble, transform into grey, wet sponges. Your boots become tiny oceans. Squish, squish, squish. You've never been so intimately aware of your toes. You begin negotiating with them. Stay strong, you whisper. One toe signs a petition to secede. Doc reminds you about trench foot, a cheerful condition where feet get soggy enough to revolt. Prevention requires keeping them dry, a hilarious suggestion. Dryness is a myth here, like unicorns, or quiet. Still, you try. When the squad pauses, you pull off your boots and let the sun do its half-hearted best. Sometimes you rotate socks on a line strung between trees like a sad laundry commercial. Other times rain pours and the socks get wetter. You accept that you will prune. Hours pass, steps continue. You hear birds, insects, the squelch of mud, and occasionally a frustrated soldier yelling into the void. The Jungle S soundtrack is relentless. It whispers, it croaks, it rustles ominously at the perfect moment to make you jump. Morales claims this place has a sense of humour. Every now and then, you stop to sip water. Warm water, hot water, whatever temperature nature has gifted. You drink like a dehydrated cactus. You look at your canteen and swear it was fuller a moment ago. Hydration is a guessing game you always seem to lose. Sometimes you pass glimpses of quiet beauty, a beam of sun through the leaves, a purple flower amidst the green, a dragonfly hovering like a tiny alien spacecraft. You stare longer than necessary. Beauty is suspiciously soothing here. Then it's back to marching. Your thoughts drift. You imagine being home, stepping on clean carpet, wearing dry socks, walking to the fridge without encountering mud. You'd kiss your welcome mat. You'd marry your shower. Suddenly your sergeant raises his hand. Everyone freezes. You listen. Nothing. But that nothing is heavy. The squad kneels. You slow your breathing. The jungle waits. After a moment, you keep moving. That's how it goes. Walk, pause, worry, repeat. Eventually, the sun dips. You trudge into camp like someone who has seen too much moss. You peel off your boots. Your feet sigh. Your brain sighs. You sit, eat a ration that tastes like cardboard dipped in nostalgia, and lie down. Tomorrow you'll march again. Because that's the job. Foot rot and all. You open a can of something that might technically be food. It tastes like sadness with notes of aluminum. Even before you taste it, the smell hits you first like someone boiled despair and then forgot about it. The can claims it as meat. It does not specify from which animal, which is suspicious. You take a bite anyway because hunger has rewritten your standards. It is a little salty, vaguely chewy, and somehow both too moist and too dry. You reflect that somewhere, actual food is living its best life. Not here, not now. Welcome to Sea Rations, your portable, shelf-stable daily reminder that flavour is optional. Inside the brown box is an odd assortment of items. A main entree, crackers with the texture of chalkboard crumbs, some form of processed cheese spread, and occasionally a treat like instant coffee or a cookie that tastes like cardboard dreaming of sugar. You stare into the box, trying to summon enthusiasm. None arrives. You remember eating at diners back home: eggs, toast, pancakes. Meals that felt warm, real. Here, meals come in metal containers that require both strength and emotional detachment to open. You pry the can with your pocket knife, praying you don't slice your thumb, because imagine explaining that injury. I hurt myself while opening dinner. Not glamorous. Let's talk about the crackers. They disintegrate instantly, turning into edible dust. They have the mouthfeel of ancient pottery fragments. You spread peanut butter on them to ease the blow. Somehow, the peanut butter is the only part of the box that tastes like a memory from Earth. Morales swears that if you mix the cheese spread with the mystery meat, it is better. You try it. He is wrong. You consider filing a complaint with the Department of Terrible Suggestions, but it is too humid and you're too tired. The instant coffee packet is a gift. You pour the dusty contents into lukewarm water. It dissolves reluctantly like a teenager doing chores. You drink it anyway. It tastes like ambition that never made it past community college. But the caffeine hits and suddenly, you believe you can walk another mile, or at least stay awake long enough to regret the meal. Then there's the fruitcake. Oh yes, the infamous indestructible fruitcake, a dessert that rumour claims could outlive the war, the jungle, and possibly the sun. You bite into it, your teeth bounce. It is dense, sweet, and somehow waterproof. Doc says it could serve as emergency body armour. You consider it. Sometimes you trade rations with your squad, like kids swapping lunch items. Johnson loves the canned ham. You'd rather eat your own boot. Morales will do anything for cocoa mix. Big Red hoards crackers for reasons unclear. There's always that one guy who enjoys everything. You stare at him, confused and slightly afraid. On rare occasions, you get a ration that's good. Maybe spaghetti, maybe beans and franks. Something recognizable. You savor it like a 5-star meal. You thank the culinary gods. You wonder what you did to deserve such kindness. Probably nothing, but you take the win. Meanwhile, wildlife watches you eat. Ants gather around like tiny restaurant critics. A gecko studies your meal with a judging stare. Even the birds seem unimpressed. You consider offering your rations to nature, but you're pretty sure the jungle would return them with a note reading, "We were good, thanks." The act of eating becomes ritual. Open the box, assess the contents, make trades, consume underwhelming calories, pretend you're satisfied. You learn to eat quickly, not because it tastes good, but because time is precious, and the jungle doesn't care about dinner breaks. As you chew, your mind wanders. You think of home, kitchens, sizzling bacon, fresh bread, cold milk. You remember sitting at a table without looking over your shoulder. You remember seasoning, salt that didn't come from sweat, pepper that wasn't jungle debris, luxury. Still, the rations do their job. They give you fuel enough to keep marching, to keep watch, to keep going. You eat because you must, not because you want to. Survival is rarely gourmet. Eventually you scrape the last remnants from the can. You wash it down with canteen water that tastes like metal and warm regrets. You tuck the trash away because nothing here gets left behind and sit quietly. Rations are not enjoyable. They are functional. And sometimes, in a place like this, function is enough. You lean back, you breathe. You imagine a cheeseburger, you move on. 'Cause tomorrow you'll open another box, and the mystery will continue. At night, the jungle hums, shrieks, and occasionally whispers insulting things about your haircut. You lie in your foxhole trying to get comfortable on a bed made of mud, roots, and the knowledge that you are very far from a Casper mattress. Daylight has slipped away, replaced by a darkness so thick it feels like someone threw a blanket over your face. The only illumination comes from the moon, filtered through layers of foliage that seem determined to hog the spotlight. The heat doesn't leave when the sun goes down, it just changes personality. Instead of scorching intensity, it becomes a damp presence that sits on your chest. Your shirt is still wet, it might always be wet, and your skin sticks to the inside of your uniform like cling wrap. You sigh, loudly enough to express dissatisfaction, but quietly enough not to alert anything that believes sighing is a dinner bell. The noise begins slowly. First, a low hum insects turning in for the night's gossip session. Then a chorus of croaks, chirps, and screeches, each creature competing to be the loudest contestant on Vietnam Has Got Talent. You hear something that sounds like a broken typewriter, then something that sounds like a door hinge, then something that sounds like your high school math teacher saying, "I am disappointed in you." You wonder how this much noise is possible without electricity. Morales, curled up nearby, mutters, "It's like Times Square, but with more frogs and fewer hot dog carts." Someone quietly laughs. It helps. Let's talk about mosquitoes. During the day, they were annoying. At night, they become philosophers. They hover near your ears, offering thoughts like, "You'll never sleep again." You slap at them, but they treat this as flirtation. Someone once joked the mosquitoes here hold degrees in persistence. You believe it. Every rustle raises your heartbeat a few notches. Leaves crunch. Sticks snap. A lizard sprints across your boot like it's late for a meeting. You flinch. Carter whispers, "Probably a gecko." You whisper back, "What if it is an entire battalion?" He shrugs. "Then we'll deal with it in the morning." This is his version of optimism. Your rifle lies next to you, an uncomfortable security blanket. You've cleaned it. You've checked the safety. You've placed it where your hand can find it in the dark. You're not expecting an attack, but you weren't expecting your life to become a live-action nature documentary either. So who knows? The jungle smell intensifies at night. An earthy mix of wet vegetation, decomposing leaves, and the occasional whiff of is something dead nearby. You wonder if your socks are partially responsible. It's impossible to tell. Sometimes, the jungle falls strangely silent. The abrupt quiet is worse than the noise. No shrieks, no croaks, no whispers, just stillness. You freeze. Everyone does. The silence presses down like a warning. Even the insects take 5, and then snap a branch crack somewhere to your left. Your pulse spikes. You clutch your rifle. You listen. Nothing else happens. After a few minutes, the jungle resumes its nightly talent show. The frogs start arguing again. The cicadas warm up. Someone nearby exhales in relief. You realize you were holding your breath. You and the squad take turns on watch. When it is your shift, you sit upright, staring into the dark, trying to decide whether that shadow is a bush or a threat. You learn quickly that the answer is almost always bush. But the uncertainty keeps you sharp. You scan, you listen. You think about home, about quiet nights with crickets and streetlights instead of whatever this is. Your foxhole is a small sanctuary. A moist, cramped sanctuary, but still. You tuck your boots inside to prevent surprise critter roommates. You curl up as best you can, using your pack as a pillow. It is the worst pillow imaginable, but at least it isn't biting you. Eventually, exhaustion creeps in. Your eyelids droop. The noise becomes ambient instead of threatening. The frogs harmonize. The insects form a rhythm section. A distant owl takes lead vocals. It's the jungle as lullaby aggressively performed, questionably in tune, but comforting in its own bizarre way. You drift. You dream in snippets letters from home, your mother's kitchen, a shower that runs clean and hot. Then suddenly you're awake again because something hissed nearby. You tell yourself it's so harmless. The alternative is too stressful to consider. By dawn, you've slept maybe 90 minutes, maybe 12. Time is meaningless. The jungle dims its concert, swapping shrieks for soft rustles. Birds begin chirping with irritating cheer, like morning people who demand everyone enjoy sunrise. You stretch. Your back pops. Morales groans. Big Red snores until Carter kicks him gently. You pack up your gear, wipe away whatever crawled on your arm during the night, and prepare to move. Another night survived. Here in the jungle, that's a victory. Tomorrow the screaming lullaby will return. But for now you'd still hear, and sometimes that's enough. The radio crackles occasionally with vague information. Most of it boils down to, "Be careful out there. Thanks, Tony. Very helpful." You stare at the handset like it's an oracle that forgotten how prophecy works. You imagined military communications would be crisp, organized, maybe even heroic. Instead, it sounds like someone stuffed a kazoo inside a tin can and gave it stage fright. Half the messages come through as static with a hint of shouting. The other half are basically, "Try not to die." Your radio man, a wiry guy named Pickens, whose entire personality is a didn't ask for this job, keeps the receiver tucked against his ear as if hoping to hear gossip. Sometimes, after a long fuzzy burst of static, he lowers it dramatically and says something like, "Command says keep doing what we were doing." You blink. What you were doing is sweating and hoping nothing explodes. Apparently, Command supports this plan. The radio is temperamental. It works best when you're not trying to use it. The moment you need it, the antenna enters its rebellious teenage phase and stops listening. You find yourself gently adjusting it, like you were coaxing decent Wi-Fi from a misbehaving router. You move 2 inches to the left, nothing. 2 inches to the right, suddenly, a voice. You freeze like a squirrel caught in a burglar alarm, terrified that breathing wrong will break the connection. When the voice emerges clearly, it is always anticlimactic. Unit 6. Be advised, situation normal. Nothing about the jungle feels normal. Nothing. You want to ask follow-up questions, but Pickens reminds you, transmit only when necessary. So you settle for sarcastic telepathy. You picture shouting into the radio, "Can we define normal? Because I just saw a frog glare at me with judgment in its soul." Every once in a while you hear chatter from other units. Snippets. Something about movement near a river. Something about needing supplies. Something about someone stepping in what might have once been a cow. You try to piece together the wider picture, but it's like trying to assemble a puzzle while blindfolded and allergic to cardboard. The most stressful messages are the ones that start strong, then dissolve into fuzz. Possible activity spotted near approach with caution. What activity? Where? Should. You crouch? Should you run? Should you quietly bribe the mosquitoes to stand guard? Pickens writes down what he hears, even if he only catches 3 words. His notebook looks like the diary of someone trying to solve a mystery with only half the clues. You occasionally peek over his shoulder. North maybe? VC? Bird? Stay alert. Every message ends with stay alert, as if you'd forgotten where you are. You're in the jungle. You're already so alert you could hear an ant sneeze. Sometimes you get code phrases. They sound dramatic, rolling thunder, broken arrow, broken teaspoon. You're not always sure. You nod anyway, pretending you understand. Pickens shrugs. Probably nothing, he says, which is comforting only if you're already numb. On good days, the radio brings news from rear bases. Mail arrived, supplies in transit, weather questionable but survivable. You celebrate these small updates like they were lottery wins. One time, you hear music faintly bleeding through someone as broadcast a crackly, distant song. It reminds you of home, of kitchens and car rides, and days when the biggest fear was running out of gas. You close your eyes and just listen. On bad days, the radio goes silent. Completely silent. Hours pass. The jungle talks. The radio doesn't tea. Your sergeant looks concerned. Even the insects seem nervous. Your mind invents scenarios. Maybe the antenna broke. Maybe headquarters got busy. Maybe. But eventually a hiss of static returns, followed by a bored voice. Unit 6. Copy status. Everyone exhales. Even Pickens smiles just slightly. There's a strange comfort in the familiar absurdity of these communications. The radio is both lifeline and comedian, unreliable, indecisive, and perpetually vague. Still, it is the thread connecting you to the unseen world beyond your patch of jungle. A reminder that you are part of something bigger, even if that something has no idea what you're doing. By evening, Pickens turns the volume down to a low murmur. You sit nearby, pretending not to listen while definitely listening. Static washes through the humid air, a weirdly soothing sound. If you squint your ears, it almost feels like white noise from a cheap hotel. You lie back in your foxhole. The radio crackles. Tony probably says, "Stay safe." You sigh, amused. You'll try, Tony. You'll try. Rain begins and never stops. Your clothes fuse to your body. Everything is mud. Not just regular mud. Not the cute kind your dog rolls in after you spent 80 at the groomer. No, this mud has levels, textures, personalities. The squishy kind that steals your boots. The syrupy kind that clings to your pants like a needy toddler. The deep, ominous kind that whispers, "Keep walking, I dare you." You suspect it's alive. The rain arrives without warning. A mist becomes a sprinkle, becomes a downpour, becomes build an ark or perish. Droplets hit your helmet like someone firing rice grains from a BB gun. It quickly escalates to endless vertical rivers falling from the sky. You look up, hoping to negotiate with the clouds, but the clouds do not negotiate. The clouds are unionized. Your squad is instantly soaked. Morales tries to joke about it, but gets a mouthful of water mid-sentence. Johnson wraps his poncho around himself like a disappointed burrito. Doc stares ahead, face neutral, accepting his moist fate. Everyone copes differently. The ground transforms into a chocolate-brown slip and slide. You lose all dignity. You try to walk carefully but glide into an unplanned interpretive dance. The jungle floor becomes a suggestion rather than a solid. You give up looking graceful. Even cats couldn't he walk cool here. Within minutes, your fatigue pants have glued themselves to your thighs. Your boots weigh 80 pounds each. You question whether your feet still exist or have become aquatic beings. When you sit, water pools in every fold of clothing. When you stand, it follows. You consider asking the rain to pay rent. Let's talk uniforms. Back home you thought they were sturdy, durable. Here they are soggy blankets that protect you in the same way a paper towel protects against flamethrowers. Every step squelches. Your socks are indistinguishable from the swamp. The sensation is a full-time distraction, like walking on two overcooked lasagnas. The worst part isn't the water on the outside, it's the water on the inside. Your muscles refuse to dry. Your bones feel damp. Your soul absorbs moisture. You imagine wringing yourself out like a sponge over a mess hall bucket. Maybe you could refill canteens that way. Visibility shrinks. Fog mixes with rain, mixing with the frantic movement of leaves. Everything looks blurry, like nature put Vaseline on your eyeballs. The jungle becomes impressionistic art. Beautiful if you weren't busy sinking into it. Monsoon rain has a sound, a wall of white noise, a constant drumming that vibrates in your skull. It drowns conversation, drowning bird song, drowning thought. You yell at Morales from 2 feet away. He stares, nods like he understood, and then tells you later he thought you were talking about macaroni. No one communicates well in this weather. Even the radio gives up just static, politely declining participation. Firearms and gear become high-maintenance toddlers. You open your pack. Everything wet. You wrap. Things carefully, still wet. You swear that water teleports. Your rifle needs constant wiping. You cradle it under your poncho like a baby. It still gets wet. You accept that rust is in your future. Sleep. You try. The rain pounds on your helmet like a toddler playing the world's worst xylophone. Your foxhole becomes a bathtub. You wake to find your sleeping pad floating away like it's escaping a bad relationship. You drag it back. It leaves again. You give up. Trenchfoot creeps back into your thoughts like an unwanted sequel. Doc reminds you to dry your feet. The sky laughs hysterically. You rotate socks constantly, but every sock is identical. Damp, sad, smelling faintly of doom. You fantasize about dryness. You detrade a month of leave for a towel, a clean, fluffy towel, maybe even 2. Some days the rain eases, not stops, just becomes polite drizzle. The squad celebrates like victory just landed. Morales brushes his hair back dramatically. Even though it's still very wet, someone tries to light a cigarette and fails spectacularly. You all laugh. The jungle, now more water than land, feels alive in a new way. Frogs party, plants perk up, leeches arrive for their version of Black Friday. Rivers swell into torrents. You cross carefully, trying not to be swept into the South China Sea. You slip anyway. Big Red grabs your pack and yanks you back. You thank him. He shrugs like saving people from liquid death is his hobby. Days blur. Clothing never dries. You forget the sensation of crisp. You long for sunshine without steam. You wonder if your fingers will stay wrinkled forever. Then, one morning, the rain lifts. Slowly. The sky peaks open. Light touches leaves. The forest exhales. You remove your poncho, feeling the sun like a long-lost friend. Hope, absurdly, returns. For now. Because monsoon season isn't finished. It is just stretching. And you keep marching damp, heavy, and weirdly proud, because you survived another day where the sky refused to quit. Something slimy wriggles on your ankle. At first, you think it's just another glob of monsoon mud, maybe a curious vine, maybe a jungle hug. But then the mud moves with confidence and you learn instantly that you've acquired a new pet. A leech. A personal blood-drinking subscription service you absolutely did not sign up for. The free trial begins now. Cancellation is complicated. You freeze, partly from surprise and partly because you have no idea where to put your emotions. Your brain cycles rapidly through the 5 stages of grief before settling on sarcasm. You look down and see the small, shiny creature doing its best impression of a lazy noodle. It is attached with the calm certainty of someone who plans on staying a while. Morales looks over, squints, and shrugs. "Congrats," he says. "You're a snack." Apparently this is normal. Leeches arrive with the rain, the swamp, and your rising anxiety. They live everywhere: grass, puddles, riverbanks, your nightmares. They don't ask permission. They didn't wait for invitation. They simply latch on and get to work like the world's most annoying freelancers. You remember the first briefing. If you notice leeches, just remove them. Just remove them. As if it is the same as politely asking a guest to leave your party. Leeches don't respect boundaries. Your squad teaches you the basics. Don't panic. Don't rip. Just pull gently or use flame. You weigh your options. Flame sounds dramatic. Also, you like your skin. So you pinch gently. The leech releases with the plop. Offended you've declined its services. Your ankle looks fine, a tiny reminder that your blood was momentarily on loan. You sigh. Of course, that is not the last one. Leeches love you now. You are irresistible. You check your socks, your calves, your thighs. Somehow they always find the spots you can easily reach. Doc tells you they smell heat and movement. Big Red claims they navigate using dark magic. Both theories feel correct. When you cross streams, it becomes a game of who will get the most. You all step cautiously, watching the water like it's full of tiny thieves because it is. 3 steps later, Morales lifts his leg and reveals a family reunion happening on his shin. He groans. Doc helps. The rest of you pretend to feel sympathy. The sensation is strange. Not painful, just a gentle tug, like your ankle is getting a tiny vacuum cup massage from a creature with a questionable resume. They're quiet thieves, polite even, and that makes it somehow worse. If something's going to steal from you, you prefer it loud and rude. Every rest break becomes inspection time. Boots off, socks off, dignity off. You sit in a circle like some humid summer camp, peeling parasites off your legs. No one judges. Everyone's been there. It is gross bonding the truest kind. Removing them is one thing, preventing them is another. People try tricks. Tucking pants into boots, moderately effective. Using repellent, sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. Yelling at them, ineffective but good for morale. Ultimately, leeches will do what leeches do, and you must accept their chaotic energy. You learn to coexist. Not happily, but pragmatically. Leeches are part of jungle life, like rain and humidity, and someone snoring extra loud at 3 a.m. You adapt. You check your limbs often. You stop screaming at every wet sensation. You develop the emotional resilience of a raisin. A weird thing happens over time. You stop caring as much. Not because you enjoy them, never that, but because your brain only has so much space for terror. The jungle offers many horrors. Leeches become background decoration, like ugly wallpaper you can't remove. At night, you lie in your foxhole and feel phantom tickles. You check. Nothing. Your mind mocks you anyway. In the morning, you peel off your socks to find only mud. Is a victory. You brag. Morales claims he had 4 and still slept. Big Red says he doesn't check anymore. The leeches can take what they want. You assume he's joking. You hope. One afternoon, rain stops. The sun pushes through leaves. You walk, confident, calm. Then a familiar wiggle brushes your calf. You sigh deeply, dramatically, and flick the leech away with practiced ease. Congratulations. You're now a professional leech landlord. They arrive. They feast. They leave. And somehow you carry on, because out here, losing a few drops of blood is just another Tuesday. Hours of nothing punctuated by 5 seconds of absolute chaos. Welcome to the emotional trampoline of Vietnam, where your nervous system alternates between, I am so bored I could nap on a cactus, and I may ascend into the spiritual realm right now. There is no middle setting, no moderate tension, just quiet emptiness, then adrenaline delivered via catapult. Most of the time, you wait. You wait while sitting, standing, crouching, or lying prone. You wait while sweating. You wait while thinking about foods that no longer exist. You wait while listening to Morales debate whether hot dogs are sandwiches. You wait until you forget what you are waiting for. Hours blend together like an overlong staff meeting with no donuts. Your brain invents activities to cope. You count leaves. You rank tree stumps by charisma. You contemplate starting a jungle podcast called Bugs. Bud's Bad Decisions. You mentally rearrange your childhood bedroom furniture. You debate whether your high school crush would still like you, even though you now smell like mildew and existential dread. Mostly, though, you sit still, because moving too much means noise, and noise invites curiosity from things you'd rather not meet. Quiet patrols become routine. You walk slowly, you listen. You feel like a ghost with damp socks. Your senses heighten to absurd levels. A twig snaps in the distance. Suddenly it's the most interesting event of the day. A bird flutters away. You prepare your will. Then just as you convince yourself nothing will ever happen again, it happens. A rustle, a signal, a flash, and the jungle explodes into motion. Commands shout. The air thickens with tension. You drop, move, breathe too fast. The world shrinks to 5 frantic seconds where you feel every heartbeat like it's trying to punch its way out. You don't think, you react. Training or whatever was left after training decided not to follow you kicks in. You hug the earth, you crawl, you find cover, you communicate with gestures that look suspiciously like modern interpretive dance. It's astonishing how many hand signals you've invented on the spot. Everyone understands anyway. Just as suddenly it stops, the jungle resets like nothing happened. Sound returns. Insects resume their nightly orchestral performance. A frog hops by, unimpressed. You lie still, trying to remember how lungs work. Someone always breaks the silence with a joke, not because anything is funny, but because humor is the duct tape holding your sanity together. Big Red mutters, "Well, That woke me up, as if he'd only spilled hot coffee on his lap. Morales says he is fine but might never unclench again. You nod in profound agreement. Then it's back to waiting. Waiting becomes your true occupation. You just happen to carry a rifle while doing it. Time slows, your thoughts wander. You notice tiny details. The way moss creeps up a log, the faint ripple in a puddle, the lizard giving you what you're pretty sure is side-eye. There's a strange peace to it, a quiet that blankets everything, even though you know it's as fragile. Sometimes you fall into a meditation-like trance. You focus on your breath, on the slow movement of the leaves, on the way your heart tapers back to normal. It feels almost spiritual, like the jungle is letting you borrow a little calm. Other times you get restless. Boredom creeps through your bones. You think, I could do paperwork right now, happily. Then you remember your sergeant has paperwork and you stop thinking that immediately. The unpredictability is what wears you down. Not knowing when something will happen is like watching popcorn pop, except the kernels are invisible. The microwave is the rainforest, and if it pops too loud, you might spontaneously relocate 3 feet to the left. You learn small coping rituals, quiet jokes, trading gum, checking gear, cleaning rifles obsessively. It gives your hands something to do, and your brain a rest from imagining worst-case scenarios. You chew gum like it has answers. You clean your weapon until it gleams, though humidity will undo your work by lunchtime. At night, you replay the chaos in your mind, filing it under events I would not recommend. You lie awake listening to insects scream their lullabies and wonder if tomorrow will be all boredom, all chaos, or both. But then sunrise arrives. The jungle glows. Morning mist drifts across leaves. A calm moment, almost beautiful. You breathe deeply. For a second, you feel okay, because you survived yesterday, and now you prepare to survive today. Hours of nothing, 5 seconds of chaos. Repeat. It's not fair. It's not predictable. It's just the way of things out here, and somehow you adapt. Suddenly chaos erupts, shapes move, sound explodes. 1 second you are trudging along, contemplating whether socks can achieve consciousness. The next, the jungle turns into the world's most aggressive surprise party. No warning, no invitation, just the unmistakable roar of battle ripping through the air like someone pressed play on the wrong soundtrack. Your brain reacts before you do. The world shrinks to dirt, leaves, and motion. Your body drops so fast you swear gravity got impatient. You press into the earth, hugging the mud like a long-lost friend. The ground is rough, wet and lumpy, but right now it's the most comforting mattress you've ever met. Voices break through the noise, your sergeant shouting directions, your squad mates responding with clipped urgency. Everyone suddenly remembers the group project dynamic. No one wants to be the person who didn't do their part, except instead of splitting slides in a PowerPoint, you're splitting survival instincts. You scan the jungle. Movement flickers behind trunks and brush. It's fast, too fast. Shadows stretch, disappear, return. You see almost nothing, which is somehow more stressful than seeing everything. The enemy blends with the land, using cover the way you used to use excuses. Their familiarity with the terrain is uncanny, like they've marked every root and leaf on a map you'll never see. Your hands move automatically, positioning, readying, steady breathing. You're grateful for training, flawed though it was, even if nobody taught you how to interpret birds screaming like they were narrating the action. Communication becomes mostly gestures. Your squad moves like you've rehearsed, even though you definitely didn't. You crawl through ferns, mindful of sticks and leaves that sound like fireworks under your knees. Every inch of progress feels earned. You notice details, the smell of wet soil, the faint metallic tang of adrenaline on your tongue, the whistle of wind slicing through bamboo. Strange how the senses sharpen even as your thoughts smear into simple directives. Move, watch, breathe. Your universe is now a few feet wide. Time slows. A branch quivers. Leaves shudder. A shout rises behind you, a warning or a curse. You're not sure. Everyone shifts in one motion, a chaotic ballet choreographed by fear and necessity. Then, as abruptly as it began, the cacophony fades. Not silent, not calm, just distant. Like someone lowered the volume. The jungle remains alert, but the intensity has dissolved into echoes. No one moves at first. You wait. Heartbeat arguing with your ribcage. Insects begin their chorus again, tentatively. A frog croaks as if to say, "So, are we done?" You check yourself gear intact. Limbs accounted for. Morales whispers, "That was fun." You whisper back, "No." Humour is the only currency accepted here. The sergeant signals. Slowly, painfully slowly, the squad regroups. You shift from prone to crouch, senses still humming. You whisper updates. Who saw what? Who? Heard what? Who might have spotted movement? Everyone shares scraps of information like you're assembling a puzzle that has half its pieces stolen. Doc does quick checks, making sure everyone is all right. A nod here, a pat there. You appreciate his calm, even if his hair is sticking out at strange jungle angles. Your lungs finally take a full breath. It tastes like mud and relief. After a few minutes, you rise, cautiously. The jungle looks the same as before, green, dense, indifferent. It's unsettling how quickly it returns to normal, like a stage play between scenes. The only reminder of danger is the lingering tension in your muscles. You scan the trees, wondering if the shapes will return. They don't. Not now. The enemy is gone or hidden or watching. You remind yourself that visibility is a luxury rarely offered. You quietly resume movement, each footstep careful. You all speak less now, partly from focus, partly from shared exhaustion. The adrenaline fades, leaving the familiar emptiness. You reflect on how strange it is to go from utter chaos back to slow, muddy marching. This, you realize, is the rhythm of life here. Long stretches of waiting, interrupted by sharp spikes of terror, and then more waiting. You breathe. You continue. The group project is ongoing. Big Red mutters, "I miss algebra." Everyone nods. After a while, you return to scanning the trees, listening to cicadas, and thinking about home. The fear recedes, though never fully. It lingers like a notification bubble you can swipe away. Still, you adapt. You keep moving. Because out here, surviving the ambush isn't the end, it is just another line item. 5 seconds of chaos followed by infinite mud, and the project isn't done yet. You dig into the earth and create a mud-themed studio apartment. It isn't listed on Zillow. It has no designated parking. The walls leak, the floor is always wet, and the HOA consists of frogs who demand rent in mosquitoes. Still, considering the alternatives, this might be the most secure real estate you'll ever occupy. You carve it out with your entrenching tool, an implement that looks like a shovel, but feels like a cosmic joke about how much effort you're willing to put into your survival. The soil is damp, sticky, and occasionally alive. Worms wriggle by, irritated that you're wrecking their neighborhood. Roots poke through like weird interior design choices. You shovel, scrape, and swear. Before long, you've created a pit just wide enough for you, your pack, and the existential dread that now follows you everywhere. When the rain comes, and it always comes, your foxhole transforms into a tiny personal wading pool. Water collects at your feet, at your waist, at your soul. You bail it out with your helmet, which was not advertised as a multi-purpose bucket. After a few minutes, you give up. Nature is winning, and she is not subtle about it. You crawl inside and settle in. It isn't comfortable. It isn't dry. It isn't even rectangular, but it's yours. A muddy embrace, a damp hug from the earth. You press your back into one wall and your knees into the other. The space leaves no option but intimacy. You and your gear are now roommates. Your backpack snores louder than Big Red. Let S discuss decor. Roots act as shelves. You hang your socks over a branch that crosses the opening, pretending the sun will help. It won tea. A puddle forms near your left elbow. You name it, Lake Disappointment. Every so often, a cricket leaps in just to show off. Mosquitoes love your cozy new apartment. They show up unannounced, bringing no snacks, offering no rent. They hover near your ears and whisper things like, "We will eat you forever." Lizards occasionally wander through, offering no explanation. You accept them. They quiet, and they eat the other tenants. Sleeping is an adventure. You lie on a poncho liner over compressed mud. Your spine attempts to negotiate better working conditions. The ground responds by providing one perfect route that jabs your ribcage all night like a disgruntled masseuse. You roll. It follows. You roll again. It's still there. You resign yourself to the arrangement. Foxholes aren't just for sleeping, they are for waiting. Long stretches of uneventful time spent staring at dirt, contemplating life decisions. You listen to the jungle outside, distant croaks, rustling leaves, occasional muttering from Morales about how he should have become a dentist. Even in the dark, you feel the presence of your squad, each in their own pit, echoed around you like weirdly spaced apartments without shared walls. Your sergeant checks in. He crouches at the edge of your new home, offers a silent nod, then moves on. Approval granted. You think about asking if you can paint the place, maybe install carpet, but you just. It's better to let the illusion of professionalism remain intact. When there's thunder, your foxhole vibrates. The ground shivers under you, a reminder that you live inside the earth now. Lightning flickers through the canopy, casting brief snapshots of your squad's muddy faces, half dreaming, half awake. You imagine the jungle as a living creature holding all of you gently in its damp embrace. During lulls, you try to sleep. You close your eyes. You breathe. The jungle tries to sing you a lullaby, mostly involving frogs, wind, and something dragging leaves ominously nearby. Somehow you drift, maybe for 5 minutes, maybe 2 hours. Time is a theoretical concept. At dawn, the world glows green. Sunlight filters through leaves. Mist rises like nature's humidifier. You sit up, muddy, stiff, but alive. Your foxhole has collected new puddles as visitors. A snail has moved in without asking. You let it stay. It is quiet, and it pays rent in companionship. You climb out, stretch, and marvel at how your standards have changed. Back home, you complained about mattresses. Now you feel proud of a hole in the ground. You built it. You protected yourself. You survived the night. You pat the edge of your damp studio apartment with the affection of a weary landlord. Will you return tonight? Absolutely. Will you enjoy it? Probably not. But it's yours, and though small, wet, and profoundly inconvenient, it has kept you safe. And out here, that's luxury. A letter arrives. You read it 39 times. Somebody back home misses you or wants the car back. It is touching. Mail call doesn't happen often. When it does, it's like someone dumped Christmas morning into the jungle minus the eggnog and electricity. The squad gathers around the guy with the mailbag like he's Santa Claus with actual shoulders. Everyone holds their breath, silently negotiating with the universe. Please call my name. Please call my name. But the universe works in mysterious ways. Some guys get 3 letters, others get none. Everyone tries not to look jealous. When your name is finally called, you react like you've just won a small lottery. You rush forward with the energy of someone discovering a pizza delivery in the rainforest. The envelope looks humble, just a piece of paper wrapped in hope. The handwriting hits you first familiar loops, a smudge here, a mistake there. Real, human. From a world that now feels fictional, you open it slowly, carefully, as if the paper might crumble under too much enthusiasm. Inside are words that smell faintly of home, though you know that it's impossible. The first line makes your heart tighten. Someone misses you. Or maybe they only miss your ability to fix the lawnmower. Could be both. The letter rambles in delightful, ordinary ways. The dog got into the trash again. Your sister dyed her hair a colour that worries everyone. The neighbour still mows his lawn angrily, like the grass owes him money. Nothing dramatic, just life, continuing without your supervision. It's comforting and confusing. The world spins whether you're watching or not. You read the letter once, twice, then again. Each read adds new flavour. The funny parts get funnier. The mundane parts become interesting. You linger on sentences that feel like hugs. Someone mentions they made your favourite meal last Sunday. You can almost taste it: warmth, spice, normalcy. You swallow hard. Morales reads his own letter beside you. He laughs. He cries. He laughs again. My mum says she started knitting again, he says, wiping his face dramatically. She's going to make me a scarf. For Vietnam. He shakes his head, smiling. The squad congratulates him. We are all sentimental weirdos now. Some letters contain photographs, grainy windows into a parallel universe. You see faces you know, places you miss, smiles captured in sunlight instead of humidity. You trace the edges of the picture with your thumb. It becomes a talisman, a tiny shield against rainforest chaos. You tuck it inside your helmet or vest, close to your chest. Not all letters are cheerful. Sometimes they are complicated. A friend writes awkwardly, unsure what to say. Someone back home mentions rising tension about the war, protests, confusion. You process slowly. The jungle absorbs your silence, but even then, the words remind you that connection still exists. People think of you. They care. On rare occasions, a letter delivers bad news. You watch the face of the recipient shift, crumble, rebuild. No laughter then. Just quiet. The squad notices. Someone puts a hand on his shoulder. No words needed. The jungle holds its breath. After mail call, you sit in your foxhole or by the cooking area, reading your letter again and again. You memorize it, the cadence, the warmth. It becomes a script you can recite when the night feels too loud. You fold it carefully, like a relic. You slide it into a dry pouch, or the closest you can find. Moisture is the enemy of sentiment. Over the next days, you reread the letter repeatedly. Each time it hits differently. Sometimes it makes you grin. Other times it makes you choke up. Your emotions swing like jungle vines. You tell Big Red the funniest part: Aunt Carol adopted another cat. He laughs. You tell Doc the sweetest line. He smiles. You keep the deepest parts for yourself. The letter becomes a portable home, a piece of your old life, a reminder that the world outside the jungle is still turning, producing grocery lists, birthday parties, sports games, casserole disasters. You cling to that reminder. It keeps you grounded. Eventually the paper softens from handling. Corners bend, ink smudges. Still you read it. You let it live in your pocket like a quiet friend. When terror hits, you remember it. When boredom consumes you, you take it out again. It's funny. A small rectangle of paper can pull you across oceans, past trees, past mud, and into a kitchen where laughter echoes. A letter is proof that you matter somewhere else. Proof that home remembers you. And that, out here, is priceless. Injuries are treated quickly, creatively, and occasionally with duct tape level ingenuity. The hospital you imagined before arriving: clean floors, crisp sheets, something vaguely resembling air conditioning does not exist here. Instead, the medical center is whatever patch of jungle happens to be least damp, least muddy, and least likely to start buzzing. Think of it as an open-air clinic built by someone whose only design reference was please, not the ants. Doc, your medic, is the heart of it all. He is calm, quick, and has the interpersonal energy of a man who once tried to relax and found it overrated. His medical kit is a miracle in miniature. Gauze, bandages, antiseptic, painkillers, and a few items that look suspiciously like they came from a hardware store. You're a 70 certain he has a wrench in there. No one asks. When things go sideways, Doc moves fast. He kneels in mud without hesitation, ignoring insects that crawl across his boots like it's rush hour. He works by flashlight, a trembling beam that makes everything look like a spooky storytelling session, except you're the main character, and the story has no punchline yet. You help how you can, holding the light, steadying a hand, keeping the jungle from collapsing into chaos. Communication becomes quick and simple. Hold this. Stay still. You're fine. Doc says you're fine even when you are clearly not fine, and somehow it helps. It's medicinal optimism. His voice is steady, like a teacher explaining math to a room full of students pretending they aren't scared. He has jokes ready, too gentle humor that loosens the knot in your chest. Don to worry, he'll say. You'll have an excellent story for your future grandchildren. Just leave out the part where you fainted twice. The jungle environment forces creativity. Bandages are sealed inside plastic bags to keep moisture out. Medical tools are wiped constantly, because mold appears here faster than gossip in a small town. A poncho becomes a surgical drape. A helmet becomes an improvised bowl. Someone's shirt becomes a brace. The jungle doesn't care about sterile technique, so Doc compensates with determination and a borderline unreasonable amount of disinfectant. Sometimes the goal isn't to fix everything, just to fix enough. Stabilize, patch, protect. You learn the vocabulary: morphine, saline, splint, medevac. The last one sounds simple in training but complicated in real life. Calling a helicopter requires space, time, and the willingness of weather and terrain to cooperate. Sometimes they don't. While waiting, you do what you can. Comfort, distract, protect. A teammate cracks jokes that aren't funny but are perfect. Someone narrates absurd memories from home. Morales swears he once ate 17 tacos in a row. Big Red bets he could beat that record. The injured laughs a tiny, tired smile that feels like victory. When the helicopter does arrive, it announces itself long before appearing, thumping through the sky like an impatient drummer. Leaves tremble. The canopy whips. The jungle reacts with confusion, as though it didn't approve a flight plan. The squad shields the patient, guiding them carefully toward the clearing. Wind and noise swallow your voices. The helicopter touches down, loud and miraculous. The crew works like ghosts, efficient, quiet, moving with purpose. They load the patient, share brief words with Doc, and disappear into the sky. Just like that, the jungle closes around you again. The noise fades. Normal or whatever passes for normal returns. Afterward, Doc wipes sweat from his brow and reorganizes his kit like a librarian straightening shelves after a tornado. His hands are steady. His eyes are tired. You offer him a canteen and a piece of candy from your ration pack. He takes it without complaint. He never refuses sugar. Sometimes there's no emergency, just routine care. Blisters, headaches, fevers that creep in like bad ideas. Doc hands out pills and advice: wash your socks, drink more water, stop trying to eat questionable plants. I swear, he says, If one more person asks me if frogs are edible, you pretend not to look guilty. Each time you watch him work, you understand how vital he is. More than rations, more than radio, more than dry socks, Doc is the quiet thread holding everything together. A calm presence in the relentless green. He reminds you that even in chaos, there is care. Even in darkness, there is light, if only from a shaky flashlight at 3 a.m. And out here, that's a medicine enough. Your unit's mood shifts daily. Sometimes just laughing. Sometimes you consider marrying a tree if it promises better living conditions. Morale is not a straight line out here. It's a roller coaster that wasn't safety inspected, built from bamboo, and operated by a raccoon wearing sunglasses. One day, you wake up convinced that you can conquer the jungle with determination and a good breakfast. The next, a wet sock breaks your spirit so thoroughly you question your entire identity. Emotional stability becomes a rare, exotic fruit rumored to exist, impossible to find. Let S start with the highs. They usually arrive unexpectedly: a good joke, a clear morning, a ration box containing something edible. Laughter floats through camp like contraband. Morales does impressions of the sergeant, eyebrows raised, voice a gravelly whisper, hands gesturing at invisible maps. Everyone howls. Even the sergeant smirks, though he pretends not to. For a moment the war feels distant, like an old story someone forgot to finish. Silliness becomes essential. Someone invents games, guessing how long before the rain starts, predicting who will complain first, naming mosquitoes after ex-girlfriends. Big Red keeps a tally of how many frogs visit his foxhole pets, he calls them. He is up to 9. You don't ask questions anymore. Joy is joy. Sometimes morale spikes because of nature itself. The jungle offers strange wonder, a burst of flowers, a butterfly, landing on your canteen, sunlight cutting through the canopy. You pause, breathe, feel something like peace. Then a monkey throws a stick at you and the moment dissolves. But hey, it was nice while it lasted. Mail helps too. A letter makes everyone happier, even those who don't receive one. The act of watching someone smile is infectious. Morales shows you a picture of his family. They were chaos, he says proudly. You show him yours. He points at your dog. I miss your dog, he says. You shrug. Me too. Then come the lows slower, heavier. They arrive with clouds, rain, or silence. They arrive when you're tired, hungry, or thinking too much. Some days it takes only one inconvenience: an ant colony relocating into your boots, the radio refusing cooperation, your socks deciding to smell like an ancient myth to deflate the entire squad. The jungle doesn't help. It presses in, relentless. Humidity steals all motivation. The air feels like hot soup that someone spilled everywhere. Mud tugs at your boots like a needy toddler. Everything is damp: clothing, gear, dreams. You envision proposing to a large banyan tree because at least it offers shade and emotional support. Morale dips during long stretches of waiting. Time stretches. Your thoughts wander into strange places. You debate whether you could survive as a hibiscus plant. You consider shaving your head with a machete. Morales suggests eating moss. You tell him no. He shrugs like he'll do it anyway. You lie down and contemplate your life choices. There are darker dips, too quiet ones. Moments when fear creeps in, not loudly, but slowly. You think about home people, routines, things that make sense. You wonder if anyone still mows the lawn. You wonder if your favorite diner still knows your order. You wonder if the world remembers you. The jungle offers no answers, only more insects. That's when camaraderie buoys everyone, a hand on your shoulder. A quiet joke. Someone sharing their last piece of gum. Morale is telling a story about his uncle who once tried to rodeo a goat. It is ridiculous, and it helps. The squad becomes a living organism, separate bodies, shared spirit. When one person is low, the others lift. When one person laughs, everyone laughs. Survival is a group project and morale is the glue. You learn that mental resilience is not heroic or glamorous. It's ordinary. It is choosing to clean your rifle even when you're exhausted. It's changing socks when it feels pointless. It's noticing a bird and thinking, nice bird, instead of everything is terrible. It is letting yourself hope even a little. Morale improves with small victories. A dry pair of socks, they exist. A hot meal, rare. A night with fewer mosquito bites, miraculous. You hoard these wins like treasure. They build you back up slowly, stubbornly. And someday, without warning, you wake to a dawn that feels okay. Not perfect, not magical, but okay. You stretch. You laugh at Morales snoring. You sip warm water. And you realize today you have just enough energy to keep going. Morale slides, morale rises, it melts, it reforms, and still you move forward. Because out here, hope isn't a luxury, it is a habit. The fear settles in like an unwanted roommate. Invisible danger becomes the soundtrack of daily life. At first, you think fear will show up dramatically, neon sign, curtain reveal, maybe some tragic trombone. But no, it moves in quietly. One day, it is not there. The next, it is sitting at your tiny jungle table, sipping your canteen water, reading your mail, commenting on your posture. It never pays rent. It contributes nothing to chores, yet it refuses to leave. The jungle trains you in subtle paranoia. Every rustle becomes a possible threat. Every shadow stretches a little too long. Leaves, once charmingly leafy, now look like they were keeping secrets. You begin to develop new instincts, ears tuned to distant snaps, eyes attuned to anything out of place. You learn to tell the difference between a bird hopping and something else. Hint: the bird is usually less dramatic. Fear isn't a loud, it's a steady. It settles into your bones like humidity, a constant sticky presence that never fully dries. You learn to function around it. You chat, you eat your rations, you laugh at Morales' terrible jokes, all while fear sits nearby, filing its nails and reminding you it could speak up any moment. You find yourself thinking more about life before, about life after, if such a thing exists. Memories of home transform into strange dreamscapes. Familiar streets blur with jungle vines. You picture your kitchen sink covered in tropical moss. You imagine your old car with bamboo growing through it. You know that S ridiculous, but the jungle rewires what feels normal. Some nights, fear is louder. It curls up next to you in the foxhole, whispering rhetorical questions. What was that? Did something move? Why is that frog staring at you like it knows too much? You tell it to hush. The frog blinks. Fear smirks. Other nights fear is quiet. It sits in the background, patient, letting you fall asleep before returning in your dreams. Sometimes you dream of a home, a comforting scene, but there's always some jungle detail woven into it. Your grandmother's kitchen suddenly has palm leaves. Your favorite diner now serves sea rations. Your high school parking lot includes a booby trap. It's ridiculous, but also not surprising. Fear changes your internal clock too. You no longer measure days by sunrise and sunset. You measure them by tension and release. A quiet morning feels suspicious, like the world is saving up chaos. A noisy morning feels oddly comforting, at least the world is busy. You talk with the squad about it. No one uses the word fear. Instead, they say things like, "Did you catch that noise last night? Could be sworn I saw movement. Doc, is it normal for my stomach to do upside-down cartwheels?" Everyone gets it. You're all roommates with the same invisible pest. The psychological weight isn't just fear of quiet danger, it's fear of constancy. No breaks, no weekend off. The jungle doesn't believe in personal time. Your brain adapts by shrinking the idea of safety to whatever small space you control. A foxhole, a dry sock, a quiet joke with Morales. Safety becomes tiny but precious, like an emotional coffee bean. Some soldiers write to cope. They scribble thoughts into notebooks that quickly become soggy. Ink and humidity do not get along. Others swap stories, tall tales about home or ridiculous scenarios. Big Red once theorized what would happen if you tried to run a pizzeria out here. Half the toppings are frogs. Delivery time is 3 days, 1 star. You develop routines, clean your weapon, check supplies, shake out boots. These tasks ground you, not because they eliminate fear, but because they give it boundaries. Ritual becomes armor. You feel calmer simply because you're doing something. Fear also deepens bonds. When you know the person next to you feels it too, you don't feel as alone. No one pretends to be fearless. Everyone just pretends to be slightly less terrified than they are. It's a mutually agreed upon illusion, oddly comforting. Sometimes, in rare moments, fear leaves. You sit quietly beneath a patch of sky, sunlight flickering like tiny lanterns. You breathe. The air smells of rain and leaves. For a moment, brief but real, you feel weightless. Peace. Then a mosquito bites your ear and you're back. Eventually you stop expecting fear to vanish. Instead, you make peace with its presence. You learn to give it a corner, pat it on the head and say, "All right, but you're not running the show." Fear becomes background noise like distant traffic, or a roommate who always microwaves fish. This is the strange truth. Fear is constant, but so is you. You carry it. You breathe with it. You keep moving anyway. And in that quiet persistence, you find strength you didn't even know you had. You ride in a chopper, loud, windy, terrifying, and somehow safer than walking. It's the military equivalent of calling a rideshare, except there is no app, no surge pricing, and your driver is a pilot who looks like he hasn't slept since 1957. The helicopter appears before you hear it. Then suddenly you feel it, a distant thumping pulse, like the world as angry as ceiling fan deciding it wants to commute. The noise grows, whipping the jungle into a frantic dance. Trees bow, dust swirls. You wrap your arms around your gear and prepare for the least comfortable seated transportation of your life. Getting on board is its own mini-adventure. You crouch low, not because ducking will save you from the blades, but because everyone else is ducking and you trust their judgment. The crew chief waves you in urgently, like a man trying to guide a squirrel into a cardboard box. You run, hunched, heart pounding, praying your legs won't forget how to leg. Wind slaps your face. You climb inside, collapse onto a metal bench, and immediately wonder if you still have all your teeth. Then lift off. The helicopter rises with the elegance of a refrigerator trying to fly. You grip whatever is closest. A strap, a bar, Morales. The floor vibrates through your boots. Your bones join the rhythm. Inside, everyone looks equally rattled, which is comforting. The crew chief gives a thumbs up like, "This is fine," and then casually swings the cabin door open because apparently who needs walls at 2,000 feet? The wind blasts in. It doesn't ask permission. It tears through the cabin, slapping your cheeks, rearranging your hair into modern art. The noise is overwhelming, a roaring, grinding, metallic scream. You try talking to Morales. He yells, "What?" You yell, "Never mind." Communication ends. Despite the chaos, there is a strange calm. Up here, you're above the jungle beyond its dripping, crawling, whispering chaos. The world flattens into greens and browns and winding rivers. From the sky, the jungle looks peaceful, almost gentle. If it weren't for the shaking metal box you're inside, you might call it beautiful. The pilot and crew are astonishingly casual. The pilot steers with zen focus, wearing sunglasses and the facial expression of someone choosing a TV channel. The crew chief sits near the open doorway, legs dangling as if he's just vibing on a balcony. You stare and think, "Sir, please demonstrate even 1 ounce of anxiety so I can feel normal." The helicopter banks, turning sharply. Your stomach rises, then decides to fall through the floor. You clutch your pack. Morales laughs, not because it's funny, but because you've moved beyond fright into the realm of emotional interpretive dance. Big Red gives a double thumbs up, like he is on a carnival ride. You remind him this is not a carnival. This is aggressive flying furniture. Surprisingly, you get used to it. The shaking, the wind, the noise. You settle into the reality that physics is working very hard on your behalf. You peek out the doorway, seeing the winding jungle rivers, the distant mountains, and a horizon that looks endless. The view is unreal, something you'd see on a postcard if postcards were printed at 140 decibels. Sometimes the helicopter is used for medevac runs. Those flights feel different, urgent, focused. You watch the medics work with calm intensity, hands steady despite the vibration. You can hear what they say at S too loud, but you feel the seriousness in the air. The jungle below doesn't change for these moments, but you do. Other times, a helicopter is just a lift back to base. You land, ears ringing, clothes coated in dust. The sudden stillness feels strange. You step onto solid ground, still vibrating internally. Morales says he can feel colours now. You nod. You probably can too. Walking afterward is interesting. Your body argues with gravity. Your legs feel like uncooked noodles deciding whether they want to be pasta or not. But there's a special kind of relief knowing you crossed distance quickly without leeches, mud, or mysterious jungle noises. The helicopter becomes a mythical creature in your mind, loud, fearsome, yet comforting. A metal dragon taxi swooping in to carry you above the world that wants to swallow you. Whenever you hear that distant thumping, part of you relaxes. Help is coming. Movement is coming. Safety, or the closest thing to safety, is coming. You'd never call the ride pleasant, but you'd always call it welcome. Up here, with wind in your face and the world spread below, you remember what you were fighting to get back to. Quiet mornings, asphalt roads, roofs that don't leak, and vehicles that don't try to take flight. And when the helicopter touches down and you step into the thick green again, you already miss the metal dragon. You meet civilians who just want to live their lives while armies play tag in their backyard. It is surreal. One moment you're crawling through jungle vines, listening for whispers. The next you emerge into a clearing where someone is casually feeding chickens. Kids run by with bamboo toys. A grandmother cooks something that smells like perfection, and you stand there drenched, muddy, and confused like a soggy tourist who booked the wrong vacation package. The village is small, tight clusters of wooden homes, animals roaming with dignified confidence, smoke rising from cooking fires. Life goes on here, war or no war. The rhythm is steady, practical. People farm, cook, and carry water. They repair roofs, gossip with neighbours, and try to figure out why foreigners are wandering through their vegetable fields. You try to be polite. You smile awkwardly. You wave. One child waves back with the enthusiasm of someone greeting a mildly interesting cloud. Another hides behind her mother's legs, unsure about the mud-covered strangers who smell like panic and canned meat. Your squad keeps a respectful distance. This isn't your house, this isn't anyone's battlefield by choice. You are guests, uninvited, but trying to behave. The sergeant reminds everyone, be cautious, be courteous. You nod. The jungle is confusing, villages are even more so. A few soldiers attempt small talk using gestures, pointing, smiling, overusing thumbs up like it is a universal language. It sort of works. Morales tries to compliment someone's dog but ends up giving it a ration biscuit. The dog now loves him more than anyone ever has. Big Red jokes they should leave Morales there to tend chickens and start a bakery. Morales considers it. You're struck by the calm. People here have seen armies come and go. They know the routine. Nod, be careful, keep living. Their ability to maintain normalcy in chaos is quietly heroic. You watch a farmer guide water buffalo across a field as though nothing is unusual. Meanwhile, you're sweating because a leaf moved suspiciously. Someone offers tea or at least warm liquid in a cup. You sip politely. It's earthy, comforting. You pretend you know what you're drinking. You don tea, but it tastes like a moment of peace. You thank them in every gesture you know. A bow, a smile, a grateful nod. They accept with a graceful shrug, as if to say, "Of course you need tea. Look at you. Kids are the bravest here." They observe you with unfiltered curiosity. One boy tugs gently at the frayed strap on your pack, inspecting it like a scientist examining an alien artifact. Another shows you a bamboo cricket trap. You marvel at its simple, clever. The boy beams proudly, as if he's just demonstrated rocket science. The chickens, meanwhile, are completely unfazed. They strut around like tiny generals overseeing their domain. One hops onto your boot, glares, and walks away, rank established. But there's tension beneath the surface, everyone feels it. The war is close, even when silent. You sense caution in people's eyes, careful movements, hushed tones. They protect their homes, their families, their dignity. You respect that. You try to make your presence brief, gentle. Your squad distributes some rations, a small gesture. A few villagers offer fruit in return. You taste something sweet and bright, and suddenly remember what real food is. It hits harder than expected. The jungle has been feeding you humidity and anxiety. This is the first bite of normal life you've had in weeks. Communication is clumsy but kind. You laugh at misunderstandings. Someone mimics a buffalo. Someone else tries to explain mail call using hand gestures that look suspiciously like jazz hands. Is all delightfully absurd, but the smiles are real. Eventually you move on. The jungle calls, duties call. You shoulder your gear, bow in thanks, and step back into the green maze. The village shrinks behind you. Smoke rises steadily from the cooking fires. A dog barks once, as if saying goodbye. Children wave, then disappear behind houses. The contrast lingers. One moment. Warmth, quiet work, human routine. The next, branches, shadows, uncertainty, you. Realize how deeply people want to live ordinary lives, harvest crops, raise children, gossip over tea even when history insists on being noisy. As you walk, Morales sighs. "I'd give anything for a kitchen right now," he says. You nod. You would too. The village becomes a memory, a snapshot of humanity in the middle of chaos. A reminder that life goes on, that peace still exists in small pockets, waiting patiently for the world to calm down. It's humbling. It's grounding. It stays with you. Because sometimes, in the middle of a war, the most powerful thing you see is someone hanging laundry in the morning sun. The air is a blend of sweat, moldy leaves, questionable meat, and your sock. It's an aroma that defies logic, a scent so powerful it could probably be bottled and sold as eau de trauma. The jungle doesn't just smell, it participates. It climbs into your nostrils, sets up shop, and refuses eviction. You take a breath and instantly regret it. The air is dense, a humid stew of nature and regret. You've been here long enough that you no longer know where you end and the environment begins. You're at least 20 mildew at this point. Let us start with the most persistent note of the jungle perfume: sweat. Your sweat. Your squad's sweat. The sweat of generations of mosquitoes celebrating your existence. Sweat here isn't just a bodily function, it is a lifestyle. It beads, streams, drips, pools, and occasionally you suspect whispers encouragement to your enemies. You wipe your forehead, but it doesn't matter. You're a fountain that forgot how to turn off. Then, there are the leaves, lush, beautiful, and heavily involved in decomposition. Every step kicks up the scent of something that used to be alive and is now returning to the soil with enthusiasm. The smell is earthy and rich, like a forest-themed candle manufactured by someone who hates humanity. You try to tell yourself it is natural, a word that's just supposed to sound pleasant. But here, natural translates to congratulations. There is fungus in your memories now. Next, questionable meat. Where is it? Who is cooking it? Is it even meat? You don't know. It drifts through camp like a rumor, sometimes enticing, sometimes terrifying. Morales swears it is just someone warming rations. Big Red suggests it's a mythical jungle creature trying to lure you in with brisket energy. You shrug and keep breathing because what else can you do? You tell yourself not to investigate. Knowledge is not always power. And then there's your sock. Your sock hasn't been dry since the day you arrived. It has developed a personality, perhaps even goals. It smells like despair mixed with unwashed dreams. You wash it. It laughs. You wring it out. It refills magically. You start wondering whether the sock is cursed or simply trying its best in an unforgiving world. Regardless, the scent follows you everywhere, distinct and proud. You could identify it blindfolded, which is not a talent worth putting on a resume. The jungle smell isn't constant, it shifts. Morning brings misty freshness, as if the world is trying to apologize for existing. You breathe deeply and think, not so bad. But by midday, heat transforms everything into a tropical crockpot. Leaves steam, sweat intensifies, and questionable meat makes a comeback tour. By afternoon, the air is soup fragrant, inescapable soup. Rain doesn't help. You think it will. You romanticize it. You imagine a refreshing cleanse. What you get is a smell that is somehow wetter, an aromatic tidal wave that magnifies every other scent. Camp transforms into what could only be described as swamp-themed chaos. Mud carries new notes. Iron, decay, whatever Big Red stepped in earlier but refuses to discuss. At night, the smell evolves again. Cooler air brings new aromas. Damp moss, wood smoke, the faint sweetness of tropical flowers trying to survive in this olfactory war zone. You like those moments. You lie back in your foxhole, breathing carefully, letting the gentle scents wash over you. Then Morales takes off his boots, and an entire ecosystem collapses. Your nose adapts, but not gracefully. It becomes a diplomat, negotiating with your environment. You begin categorizing scents: tolerable, confusing, alarming, and I've seen things. Some nights, you whisper to yourself, maybe I'll get used to it, U1T. But the optimism is admirable. The strangest thing, you begin to find comfort in this sensory chaos. The jungle smell means you're alive, here, part of this strange green universe. When the wind shifts and you catch the hint of wood smoke or wildflowers, something inside unclenches. The scent is both wild and grounding, a reminder that beneath the discomfort, life persists. Eventually you learn to breathe through your mouth or through the quiet acceptance that not every scent must be understood. You laugh with Morales about the smell, tease Big Red about his socks, and move on to the next task. The jungle always smells weird, but it also smells like routine, survival, and strange shared memories. One day, years from now, you'll catch a whiff of damp leaves on a rainy sidewalk and suddenly you'll be back in the jungle. Sweat, mold, questionable meat, socks with goals, and somehow you'll remember it fondly. You sleep with that one lucky trinket because why not? It could be anything, a coin, a ring, a fuzzy keychain, a button you found that one day your rations didn't taste like old shoe. Maybe your grandmother gave it to you. Or maybe it just appeared in your pocket and you decided it was fate. In the jungle, luck becomes a full-time religion, and you'll take all you can get. You tuck that trinket under your head at night like it's the world's smallest guardian angel. Does it work? Who's to say? But you're still here, so obviously it does. Superstition creeps up on you slowly. At first you laugh at it. Morales swears he can predict ambushes based on the number of birds he sees in the morning. Big Red refuses to eat the last bite of any ration packet, a habit he claims keeps the universe balanced. You roll your eyes, then slowly stop. Because after a while, bird theory starts sounding plausible, and you've started noticing that every time Big Red finishes his food, something weird does happen. Coincidence? Maybe. But coincidence and concern often look identical in the jungle. Over time, rituals form little pocket rules that help stitch chaos together. You tap your helmet twice before stepping into thick brush. You only tie your left boot first. Morales refuses to shave on days ending in Y. The sergeant pretends he doesn't believe in superstitions, but still rubs the same patch of his sleeve before stepping off patrol. Just smoothing the fabric, he insists. Sure, Sarge, sure. Nighttime is where the weirdness magnifies. The jungle hums with strange noises, chirps, croaks, rustles, whispers of wind that sound suspiciously like your name. Trees groan, insects scream. Somewhere, something splashes, and you debate whether it's a frog or a cosmic omen. Morales mutters prayers in Spanish. Big Red hums a tune he swears keeps snakes away. You cradle your lucky trinket, rubbing it like you were trying to summon a genie. You start hearing stories. Every unit has them things that don't fit neatly in the logical world. A path that seems longer coming back than going in. Lights flickering in the canopy with no source. A moment when the jungle goes silent, absolutely silent, like it is holding its breath. Those moments freeze you, heart suspended, mind racing. Nothing happens, and yet something does. You chalk it up to imagination. But imagination here is powerful enough to pay rent. Sometimes the weirdness feels friendly, like seeing a rare tropical flower glow white under the moon. A firefly landing calmly on your hand. Rain stopping the moment you finish setting up camp. These moments feel like small jungle blessings, gentle nudges that whisper, "You'll be okay." They remind you that not everything out here is trying to eat you. Just most things. Other times the weird stuff is unsettling. You lose track of time, days blending into each other until you're not sure if Tuesday exists. You swear you left your canteen next to your pack, but now it's on the other side of camp. Morales claims his sock vanished and returned cleaner. You suspect he washed it in his sleep, but the alternative, a helpful sock fairy, is just as believable. The moon becomes a character too. Full moons bring restless nights. Half moons bring strange dreams. No moons bring panic because everything is suddenly darker than your student loan memories. You start checking the sky like farmers checking the weather. Morales insists full moons are lucky. Big Red says they make the jungle too chatty. You decide not to argue with either of them. Superstitions become a coping mechanism. They offer structure where logic dissolves. They give you choices when choices are scarce. Wear your lucky socks. Step around that route. Never ask Morales how many tacos he could eat in one sitting. You already know that answer is cursed. Even the radio gets involved. Weird static patterns convince you that someone or something is trying to communicate. Maybe it's just interference. Maybe it's weather. Maybe it's the jungle gossiping about you. Hard to say. Sometimes you lean into it. You invent new rituals. Twirl your dog tags before breakfast. Tap your foxhole wall twice before sleeping. You whisper goodnight to the jungle like it's a roommate who forgot to pay its share of utilities. And when nothing bad happens, you think, it worked. Do these things actually help? Maybe not. But they help you. They give you purpose. They remind you that you can still make decisions, even tiny silly ones. And that's enough. Because in a place where time bends, danger hides, and sanity slips like a bar of soap, you hold your trinket, whisper a promise, and let superstition carry you quietly through the night. You finally leave the jungle, but the jungle does not leave you. It starts with anticipation, not loud, but persistent. A quiet buzzing under your ribs. You've daydreamed about this moment during rainy foxhole nights and humid mornings when your socks weighed more than your pack. But now that orders are in, the idea feels unreal, like someone accidentally put your name on the wrong list. You keep checking the paperwork, half expecting the sergeant to say, "Whoops, wrong guy, grab your shovel." Your final helicopter ride out feels like déjà vu, wind, noise, vibration. Except this time, your brain is busy replaying every moment of your life from rations to mail day to Morales trying to ride a water buffalo, a story you will never stop telling. You look down at the jungle, endless green, dotted with rivers and memories you'd rather not describe. It feels alive, like it is watching you go. You wonder if you should say bye. You decide the helicopter is too loud anyway. When you land at a larger base, the first shock is the running water, the sinks, the soap. You wash your hands for so long you could qualify as an overpaid surgeon. You stare in disbelief as clean water pours endlessly, obediently. No mud, no leeches. You might cry. You might be crying. No one judges. Everyone else is also crying. Next surprise, actual beds with mattresses. You poke yours like it might vanish. It doesn't. You lie down and immediately forget how sleeping works. The mattress has firmness. The pillow smells neutral. Their sheets crisp enough to frighten you. You spend an hour marveling at the idea that you don't have to share space with roots, puddles, or an opinionated cricket. Then comes the waiting, processing, paperwork. Sign here and here and here, initial there, sit in this line, go to that line. Wait for this guy who's waiting for that guy who's waiting for his coffee. Bureaucracy is the final boss. Compared to the jungle, it's almost worse. Your squad gradually splinters, some leave sooner, some later. Every goodbye is quiet and awkward. No big speeches, just firm handshakes, half smiles, a muttered "take care," and maybe a badly timed joke. Morales tells you to write. Big Red promises to open a frog-themed restaurant. You pretend to believe him. Then a flight. A loud, long flight where time folds strangely. No humidity, no insect choir, no sudden bursts of terror. It should feel peaceful, but your brain is suspicious. The silence is too quiet. You keep waiting for the jungle to tap you on the shoulder. It doesn't, but the feeling sticks. Landing back home is surreal. The air smells different, familiar but thin, like someone diluted life. The buildings look too neat, too straight. The world feels strangely loud and strangely soft at once. Cars zoom by, and you flinch before remembering that tires don't explode just because they reround. People greet you. Some smile big. Some don't know what to say. A few say things that are questionable. Bet it was an adventure. Did you get any souvenirs? You nod politely, resisting the urge to hand them your sock. Arguably, the most authentic souvenir available. Home is comforting, but your rhythms are different now. You reach for your boots before going outside. You listen for sounds that aren't there. The silence of your bedroom keeps you awake. You miss the frog chorus. You miss the noise. You miss knowing your place in a group. You don't miss the mosquitoes, but they show up in your imagination anyway. The jungle replays in subtle ways. A sudden noise, a smell of damp leaves, a dream where vines crawl up your old mailbox. You wake up with your heart racing. You breathe. You look around. No trees. Just a lamp and a half-eaten sandwich. Your lucky trinket stays beside your bed. You don't just talk about it. You just keep it close. Maybe out of superstition. Maybe respect. Maybe because the trinket understands your brain better than civilians do. Friends take you out for a burger. You marvel at the taste-real meat that doesn't come from a can. Fries that crunch. A milkshake so thick you briefly consider worshipping it. But conversation drifts. People talk about TV shows, traffic, sales at the mall. You smile, you nod. You feel your mind wander elsewhere, to the jungle, Morales, Big Red, and that one water buffalo. The world kept moving while you were gone. Returning feels like stepping into a movie halfway through. You learn slowly, groceries, bills, laundry. On rainy days, the smell of damp grass makes your chest tighten, but you breathe, you keep moving, you practice new routines, you survived. You came home, but the jungle in all its chaos, fear, humor, and green lives quietly in your pockets, not gone, just carried. Back home, people don't know what you've been through. It becomes clear almost immediately. At the airport, someone thanks you. Someone else avoids eye contact, and someone tells you their cousin once sprained an ankle so they get it. You smile politely, trying to decide if you are asleep, dreaming, or trapped inside a sitcom with questionable writing. The jungle still hums in your ears, but the world around you is offering coupons and asking if you want to round up for charity. You step outside and realize everything looks small. Houses have tidy lawns, as if nature was successfully negotiated with. Streets are clean. Nobody's boiling socks. A car drives by without backfiring, and you don't dive for cover. You do tense a little, though. Old habits aren't housebroken. They take time. People talk fast, not radio static fast, smooth fast. Words stream out about celebrity scandals, clearance sales, indoor plumbing. You nod, processing slowly. They ask questions they didn't know how to ask. They want to know what it was like, but they didn't want everything. You feel like you are trying to explain swimming to someone who's only ever seen a glass of water. Sometimes they ask specifics. Was it scary? You consider offering a one-act play titled Yes. Instead, you say, sometimes. Because how do you summarize months of jungle noise and unseen danger? How do you explain that fear became a roommate who never moved out? Other times, people don't ask at all. They shift conversation back to weekend plans, sports scores, new restaurants. You appreciate the normalcy until you realize you don't know how to participate. You spent a year eating canned uncertainty. Now everyone is debating burger toppings with great emotional investment. You try to add something profound, but all you manage is, I like ketchup. They nod solemnly. Conversation complete. The pace of life overwhelms you. Grocery stores are the worst. So many choices. 20 types of bread. 30 cereals. You stare at the shelves like they were performance art, trying to understand why one loaf promises ancient grains and another claims to be spiritually aligned. You grab the cheapest one and leave before the fluorescent lights overturn your soul. You notice you sleep lightly. A door closing wakes you. A car backfiring gives you a full-body reboot. You tell your family it's just jet lag. They nod. though everyone suspects it's not about time zones. The night is quiet here, too quiet. No frogs, no insects, just silence, thick enough to make your heart race. You miss the chaotic lullaby of jungle life. You never thought you'd miss mosquitoes, but here you are, whispering to your lamp like it's a cicada spirit guide. Your old routines feel outdated. You sit on your childhood bed, 4 legs, no mud, and don't know what to do with your hands. You don't know where to put your boots. The closet no longer stores fear, just sweaters. The lucky trinket you carried stays under your pillow, not because you believe it controls fate, but because letting go feels like abandoning a friend. Some people are kind beyond words. They offer quiet company. They don't ask unnecessary questions. They let you tell stories at your own pace. They don't flinch when you pause mid-sentence, eyes wandering somewhere far away. They don't try to fix it. They just sit, listen. These people become islands, calm, steady, and safe. Others struggle. They ask why you seem distant, why loud noises bother you, why you step carefully like the ground might complain. You try to explain invisibly heavy memories, but words don't always translate. It's like describing a color no one else can see. You do your best. Sometimes your best is silence. You try to fit in. Work, school, social gatherings with punch bowls. But the jokes feel different. The worries feel different. Someone complains about waiting in line for coffee and you think, I once waited 3 days for a helicopter that never came. You don't say it. You just stir your drink like a philosopher contemplating espresso, and yet there are moments of surprising comfort. A warm evening breeze, the smell of dinner cooking in a normal kitchen, your dog recognizing you instantly and losing all emotional stability, a sibling throwing a pillow at you like nothing ever changed. These become your new anchors. You learn, slowly, that coming home is its own journey. The jungle stays with you in your habits, your dreams, your humor, your pockets. You carry it like a quiet companion, not a burden, just a presence. Some days you feel like yourself, other days you feel like someone else wearing your face. Both are okay. You keep moving. You find people who understand enough. You build new routines. You don't force the jungle out, you just learn where to put it. Because returning isn't about forgetting. It is about learning to live with chapters that never fully close, and somehow you do. And so, here you are. You've slogged through mud, sweated through uniforms, slept nose to nose with frogs, and survived on rations that tasted like punishment. You've marched until your feet forgot they had feelings, learned to trust strangers more than cousins, and carried fear like a backpack that never quite fit. You've ridden metal dragons through the sky, built apartments out of dirt, received letters that made you cry in ways you still want to admit, and tried to pretend that bad coffee counts as emotional support. Somehow, you made it home changed, quieter, stronger, stranger. The jungle didn't just test the body, it tested the mind. It asked you to manage boredom and terror in the same hour, to laugh with people you met only weeks before, and to care about socks with the dedication of a museum curator. It asked you to grow, to adapt, and to carry memories you never asked for. And you did. You endured the rain that never stopped, the silence that never felt empty, the superstitions that held you together, and the moments of unexpected grace, a letter, a laugh, a calm night when the frogs sang back up. Now, as you lie in your soft bed here in the present dry, hopefully not sharing space with lizards, take a moment. Breathe. Feel the difference. Appreciate the comfort of clean sheets, light switches, and food that doesn't require a can opener and emotional negotiation. Maybe whisper a little thank you for those who survived, for those who didn't, and for the small and stubborn spark inside people that insists on going forward even when the path is steep and muddy. History is messy, terrifying, hilarious, and human. And the fact that anyone made it through all that absurdity is proof of resilience wrapped in humour and held together by friendship and stubborn hope. So close your eyes, let the jungle fade and rest.